fables that I am interpreting from an entrepreneurial standpoint. I am starting with the raven and the peacocks, and that is a little fable really dealing with authenticity. So I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to share it. I'm reading it out of one of my kids' old books, and it goes a little something like this. The Raven and the Peacocks. There was once a silly raven who hated his dull feathers. If only I had a magnificent tail and bright wings, how happy I would be. One day he found 5, 6 cast off peacock's feathers and stuck them into his wings and tail. How fine I am! Ugh, in fact, I'm too fine to stay with the other ravens. I shall go and live with the peacocks. He strutted off to where the peacocks lived and mingled with them. The peacocks were furious, and they screeched at him and tore the feathers from his wings and tails. How dare you wear our feathers? You are nothing but a common raven. Go away! Go away! The poor raven made his way back to his brothers, who laughed at him. You should never pretend to be something you are not, they told him. You were born a raven, and a raven you will always be. The moral: fine feathers do not make fine birds. Now, let's deconstruct this story. Now, at the essence, fine feathers do not make fine birds. That is actually the moral of the story according to the book that I'm reading, which is Aesop's Fables from my children who are now young men. It's from their earlier library. I still have it because I love children's literature. But back to the point. And the point is that this idea of, at its core, the main moral of being authentic, that embracing who you are, not putting on airs. You can't dress yourself up to be something else. And in the entrepreneurial world, that could be how you look in your Instagram feed. It could be how you show up at networking meetings. It could be how you present your business to, if you're not being authentic about it and you're presenting it beyond where it is, or you're presenting yourself to be another way so that you fit in with a group that you think uh, is further along on the journey or is quote unquote better, that will not serve you. Now, there is a caveat there, and that is, it's one thing about aspirational, and I'm not, people use that expression, fake it till you make it. And I don't love that. I don't love fake it till you make it. I like the idea of, living into your vision of who you want to be, which sounds super wordy because it is, but it is more in keeping with what I mean to express, because I think that, much like, seeing, you can't be something that you can't see, or that's not true. You can be something that you can't see. You can't, it's hard to do something that you don't envision, that you can't envision it before it happens. It's so much harder to realize it. And when we see ourselves, as an entrepreneur, you want to get started and you want to be a part of a community that is building in, let's say you want to start a donut shop, and you have to first see yourself as that donut maker. What is the experience that you have, and what's real for you? Now, you don't want to appear to be, the world's greatest donut maker, essentially putting on those feathers to appear to be something that you're not, you can start a donut shop that becomes a great donut shop by having a great concept and connecting the dots between what you need, how you envision the uh, the journey, or how you envision the shop being, and finding the right people. So you find a great pastry maker, or you find a great home maker, someone who is able to create the product, in this case, donuts, of what you would like to have in your shop. And then you can add value, or you can, the reason it will be your shop is because it is your vision, and how you decorate that shop, and how you uh, source the elements for that shop. So if you're aiming to do something now, it's my impression that you should be a responsible entrepreneur, which means you should be looking to responsibly source, and you should be considering your environment, your employees, and your social impact, as well as your environmental impact. And by creating that, then you would be looking into, where do you get organic ingredients, local ingredients? How do you really connect with where you're at, so that it is the most authentic? So the common raven approach: don't try to be something that you're not. You can Donuts, for example, in Denmark is not indigenous, or is not native to Denmark. They have Berliner, which is actually Pfannkuchen, which is German, a German donut. It is a different type of donut than the American donuts, but basically the American donuts is rooted in the Pfannkuchen. So it all is rooted the same place, but the donut epidemic in America has not hit in Denmark, although there is an increase of donut eating and donut making here in Denmark over the last few years. It's still not a huge thing. They The idea of doing it, therefore, if you were going to make a Danish donut, what would that look like? Maybe it's because you're making a donut that could be American or German, or from another land of which I do not know, that makes a type of donut, that you would, through using those local ingredients, you are doing your take on it. That would be making it a more authentic donut to the location, while also being authentic to the actual idea of this donut. By connecting the dots between what you want to accomplish in terms of, in this case, the donut shop, you want to look at what's your reason for creating the shop, and who are you aiming to appeal to. Now, in some cases, you might want to make that donut shop and really embrace that it's authentic to, if you're making an authentic American donut, then the ingredients might vary. And, you have to look into, that's the thing about sourcing it, and being responsible. But if you want it to taste a certain way, sometimes the only way to make it taste that way is to have the ingredients that are native to the area where the recipe was invented. I once lived with Italians, and one of my co-op collective uh, friends, his mother would come to visit Copenhagen, and would bring, a suitcase at that time in the 90s, sorry, of goods from Italy, because you couldn't get the same things. It was harder to get the same quality, and it is very different to have Italian tomatoes Italian sausage, Italian ingredients uh, when making Italian food, as opposed to trying to make Italian food with ingredients that are not Italian, right? So, anyway, back to our fable, and that is we were talking about how the the raven was not accepted into into the community. And of course, if you're going to connect, I'm going to continue with this donut thing. If you go to a group of donut professionals and you want to appear to be more, further along, then it's unfortunate because people will be able to see that that's not true. They'll get a feel of that, and you won't be able to get the support and the help that you could use to just acknowledge, okay, these peacocks are in this area, and I am not a peacock. I am a raven, and I will watch and learn and benefit from their experience while also being able to stand in my own ground as a raven and benefit from my experience, because in truth both have something to bring to the table. Both are equally valid and important and relevant. Again, the thing that I love to talk about is context. So it depends on the context as to what is quote unquote better at any given time. But in a digital standpoint, this idea of putting yourself out there and trying to appear, peacocking, right? Posing, pretending to be more flamboyant than you are, uh, that is going to be a problem. Not if you are, working towards becoming more in your business. And with the branding, I work with branding, and so yes, polish, but the idea of polishing that who you are, not completely making you over into something that has nothing to do with you or your brand or your aspirations and the market, and just as they say, slapping makeup on a pig um does not make it, a beauty queen or something like that. Basically, kind of back to this again. Now, when the one part is that the peacocks, or that the group that you are pretending to be a part of, will, dismiss you and not accept you. You also alienate the group you actually belong to, and putting on airs and thinking suddenly you're better will not serve you, and it will be a problem. It's one thing you're trying to grow, and it's one thing you're expanding, and you might be actually moving away from a group, but to look down upon or to belittle is a dangerous game to be playing. Also, as they say, the mighty fall. The higher you get, the longer the fall is, and the same people you meet on the way up, you meet on the way down. And because life is you know, ups and downs and ebbs and flows, you want to be weary of that. Now, that sounds almost like I'm, prepare for fail. I think being being nice is good, and working with people and moving through your own professional development is a great thing, and it's all about you and what you want to accomplish. And sometimes you have to, separate yourself, but at the same time you have to respect that other people are also doing their own thing and doing their own journeys, and that can also be a challenge as you are going through this, because I think while everyone is changing, because change is, as soon as you are born, you begin changing until you die. And even after you die, you're still changing. um, it is critical that you also are able to acknowledge that as you're doing the change, that you are acknowledging that it's happening and that you you own it basically, right? So the other side of that was, how do you know, how do you maintain being who you are and align it with where you want to go and who you want to be? And some of that can be through uh like understanding this concept of authenticity, what one of the things we talked about earlier, and how I really love Authenticity, What Consumers Really Want by Joe Pine and James Gilmore, and something that we'll talk about a little bit further. And then it will give you a chance to look into that a little bit further, but also to align it with how your experience can be developed over time. And that can be through, setting your own goals, setting your own intentions, setting your own vision. And that can be through creation of a vision board or goal mapping. And there's a lot of resources and a lot of models for setting that up that can also be really, really helpful and and entertaining to actually put together. So, yes, we talked about the raven and the peacocks, and, be a raven, not a peacock, not because peacocks aren't great, but if you're not a peacock, you don't want to be pretending to be a peacock, right? Never a good look. So, that is my little, fable section for today, and or for this segment anyway. We'll be looking into fables along the way and other lessons that might be learned through this quick form of literature and how it applies to the entrepreneurial spirit and how it applies to entrepreneurs specifically. I will be exploring a little bit more. I mean, I have my favorite ones that I'll get back to, but I'm looking into some of these other lesser known fables to share with you because it's a good opportunity to test out some new content and see how it goes, how it feels. I'll know a little bit more, how it feels for me when I have a minute to kind of reflect and have some distance and take a look at it also in the replay and will most likely, cut it up and shrink it down so that the content will be more efficient and more powerful for you to use and leverage. So thank you, and we'll be going to the next segment.